Now that we have our chart created, we can start tweaking it a little bit and formatting it the way we want it to look. Each of the chart elements is independently editable. If I click here, I'll see a little box around the vertical axis. That means if I use any of the controls here in the formatting palette, it's going to apply to the vertical axis only. Over here, I can click on the legend, edit this. Same for the horizontal axis. I can even click on the individual series columns here to edit those. But let's say we want our vertical axis to appear as dollars, since that's what we're talking about. I'm going to click the vertical axis to select it, and I can try going over here to the formatting palette, and in the number section, if you don't have this open, you can just toggle it down. I can choose currency. And you'll see that it turned it into dollars here. If I want fewer decimal places, I can use the buttons here to get rid of those. If this ever doesn't work, just to show you a trick, you can actually right-click here also. And if we go into Format Axis, you have similar controls here. And if we go into the number section, there's a button here that says Linked to Source. If you're ever not able to format a number the way you want it, check it here, uncheck Link to Source, and then you'll be more free to add currency formatting or whichever kind of formatting you want. If we look over here in the formatting palette under Chart Options, we have an option to add a title to our chart. Whatever you type in here is going to appear here at the top. This is also a drop-down menu. If we want to put a title on the horizontal axis, we can do that. If we want to say, okay, these are months, in case it's not obvious. Vertical axis, we can say amounts. It's going to put it to the side there. This is sometimes useful if you're showing amounts in hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars. In this case, we're not, so I'll leave that out. You can also choose here in the axes section which you want to show. Maybe we want to hide the amounts. Maybe we want to hide the months. The grid lines are these lines we see going across here. In this case, we're showing major horizontal grid lines, and we can turn those on and off if we want. We can also show vertical grid lines. And the minor grid lines will give us a lot more in between. We can also add labels to the chart here. If we want people to be able to see really clearly what each of these columns represent, we can say we want to add value labels. This gets a little bit messy in this example, but there's times when you might want to use it. If you want to remove it, just say none. And the legend, which is here, we can choose if we want it on the right, or on the left, or at the top, wherever you want it. The chart data section here, we looked at the sort by command already. This is what lets you switch your horizontal axis for what's in the series values here. So if we were to switch it, our chart would now be broken out by categories instead of by months. I'll switch that back. And this data table drop down lets you add a little table at the bottom of your chart. I'm going to need to make my chart bigger, but you'll see that this gives you the actual numbers at the bottom here in a little table. You can always right-click any of these elements for a little pop-up menu. To show an example of this, I'm going to make a chart with this data here, and I'm going to have this be a line chart. And this is a time-based chart. We're seeing the amounts and how they changed over time. In this case, it kind of randomly chose how it's separating the dates out here. Let's say we just want it grouped by month. I can click this axis. You'll see that it gets that box around it, so I know it's selected. And if I right-click, I can go to Format Axis. And I'm going to go to the Scale section. This is where you can choose the scale of your axis. And I want the base unit to actually be months. These checkboxes just mean if you want it to automatically calculate this for you. In this case, we don't. So I'm going to leave that unchecked, and that's fine. And I can click OK. And we'll see that it's separated it out now just to months. And if this is the way we're looking at the data, we might actually want to switch to more of a column chart, which will make a little more sense.